Hello everyone! Today we're going to talk about watercolor landscapes. So this video is the second of a series on landscapes. So if you're a beginner and you haven't seen the first video, I recommend that you go and watch it. It's 5 minutes long and I explain some simple basics for drawing landscapes. And then you can come back for this tutorial where today we're going to experiment with two different techniques to discuss how to give depth to a landscape and the different variations depending on the subject you want to represent. And you'll see that by just changing the placement of the horizon, you will tell a completely different story. So for my first painting, I'm going to place the horizon at about 1/3 of my frame, the bottom third. It's not that important to be precise, it won't matter too much. In the first video, we saw that the horizon is the eye level of the viewer. So here, the viewer is going to be quite low in the scene. It's a scene where we're going to feel very small compared to what we're seeing. And in this case, the dimension that we're going to accentuate is the height. This placement is more convenient when you want to draw something huge, something impressive, like a monument, a tree, or for example, like here, I'm going to draw a Japanese torii. It's the entrance of a sacred sanctuary. So I really want to show that this door is majestic and I feel very small compared to it. You can also do a little bit of low angle view. If you draw a really high monument, for example here on the vertical columns, I'll make the feet of the torii slightly bigger than the top. Sometimes on monuments, this is actually the case. The architect chooses to make the base bigger, and when you look at it from below, it gives the impression that the monument is even more gigantic than it really is. Here I'm going to do it very mildly, but even a few millimeters difference is enough to make a very nice effect. Another thing that increases the size of the torii is to draw something far behind. Here I drew the temple that you can see in the distance. Of course it's smaller because of the perspective and not because it's small for real, but still it helps to give importance to the torii in the foreground. For the second drawing, we'll put the horizon on the upper part, and you'll probably have guessed that the opposite effect will happen. We'll have the impression that we are taller than what we're looking at. When we put the horizon on the upper part, it gives the impression that we dominate the whole scene, or at least we dominate everything that's below the horizon. And in this case, the dimension which will be the most important is the depth. So in this example, I'm going to represent the same scene as in the first video with Mount Fuji and the lake, but this time we are seeing the scene from a mountain. So we can see the shape of the lake from above, and also I'm going to draw the surrounding fields. In this scene, I really want to show the immensity of what's happening in front of our eyes, so we're going to play with the colors as well in order to emphasize the depth of the landscape. And so with the colors, we're going to do a very simple thing. Everything that is far away, meaning everything around the horizon, we're going to use cold colors. And the closer we get, the more we're going to use warmer tones like yellow and orange. Mount Fuji itself is a reddish-brown color because the volcanic rock is more of a warm color, but it doesn't matter. It's far away, so I'll start with a layer of blue, and then I will add a brown wash of the same mountain color, and as it is watercolor, the two tones will add up and it will really cool down the mountain color. And the closer we get to the foreground, the more I'm going to use yellow and orange. Not too bright, because we can see the scene from above, so even the foreground is quite far from us, so we'll keep the colors quite light. Also for the foreground, I'm going to do much more contrast. I will add trees between the fields and paint them in darker tones with more concentrated paint. And for the stretch of land in the middle of the lake, I'm going to do something in between, a little bit colder colors, but still with a little more contrast than Mount Fuji, and that will link the background with the foreground and make a coherent composition. And in fact, what I'm showing you here, this difference between the cold and warm colors and the difference in contrast, it's called atmospheric perspective. And it's a trick that is very much used in classical Italian painting. When you know the trick, you really can't miss it. When you go to the museum, watch for it. You're going to find this everywhere. Because in fact, it's true. You can really use this trick in all of your landscapes. It gives a great depth effect and it will always work. Let's go back to the first painting and you'll see that here too I use atmospheric perspective, or at least I use these codes to accentuate the importance of my subject in the foreground. So I already made the Torii in red, which is its true color, and in this case this is very convenient for me. But to take advantage of that, in all the rest of the painting I use almost only cold colors, especially for the temple which is behind. In order to understand that this is far away, I made it in grey and quite light without any contrast. And on the other hand, in the foreground, I'm going to accentuate the contrast on the Torii and on the different elements of the foreground. And the background, I'm going to voluntarily leave it rather messy, so that it remains secondary in the general scene. If you're new to watercolor, I also made a video on 3 easy tips that will help you start painting. I put the link here, and I hope that these tips will make you want to paint or draw more often. I wish you lots of creativity and I will see you very soon. Bye!